As dawn breaks on Borneo's northwest coast, the brooding presence of Mount Kinabalu is a reminder of what lies in wait on stage 4 of the outdoor quest. At the Nexus Resort, it's a rest day for the 20 teams competing at the outdoor quest. This is the first time a break has been scheduled in the 8-year history of the event, but it's a welcome innovation for the athletes. Top of the agenda is carrying out running repairs and maintenance on their equipment, especially the mountain bikes, which have borne the brunt of the action so far.
Good to let everything rest, the gear, ourselves. That's probably the big thing. A little more sleep.
After 3 days of racing, everything is in need of a little attention. The first stage was a gentle enough introduction, a series of 3 sprint races around the grounds of the Nexus Resort. Team iRule took the tape first with a 2-minute advantage over the field. But the next day at the northern tip of Borneo, they were forced to fight hard against their rivals Nike ACG over some spectacular coastal and jungle sections. The heat and sickness put an end to Team Mastronet's race as iRule and Nike ACG slugged it out at the front. It was iRule who won again, increasing their lead to 5 minutes. Stage 3 took place in the shadow of Mount Kinabalu as the teams travelled down the Kadamian River Valley. There were spills and thrills aplenty, but the fun and games didn't distract iRule, who again pipped Nike ACG at the line, this time by a mere 21 seconds. For iRule's Marcel Hagener, Stage 3 had been an emotional experience, most of all during the Buffalo ride, which had seen him in some distress.
Hey, hey! Mate, you're scaring him! Go away! Go with the camera away!
Christina Stroudpenny 2 years ago mounted a horse in South America, and the media team jumped in front of the horse. Horse buckled her off and she broke a wrist. And that was just going the whole time in my head when we were trying to get the water buffalo thing done.
At the other end of the scale is the unflappable Addy Good vibes of Team Astafactor.
I think everyone's taking it easy today. Yeah, we're going good so far. Astafactor has been really good for us and the team, and we're looking forward to tomorrow. The start of it, just walking up with everybody else, but after that, when the gun goes off, shoot, who knows what's going to happen. I'm going to try and hook on my little tow line to the fins, because I know they pull like bulls. But hopefully I'll see you folks out there live on Mount Kinabalu. What mountain is it? Mount Kinabalu.
Take 3.
Mount Kinabalu will be racing there tomorrow.
Take 4.
What? That must be close. Kinabalu.
Take 7.
I can't even say the mountain's name. Kinabalu, I think. Everyone knows Kinabalu. It's the highest peak here in Borneo.
At nearly 15,000 feet, it's actually the highest peak in the whole of Asia, and its south peak has been the focal point for the outdoor quest for the past 2 years. This year, the athletes will be going higher than ever before, to the very top of Lowe's Peak, before an abseil from the precipitous Donkey's Ears. As the rest day draws to a close, the team set off to their overnight base at the foot of the mountain. The race organisers have to make sure everyone is on board.
All four? Where's the other one? Where? No, don't move on board. I want all four members.
Japan, all four. Where's the four? Okay, jump on. Yes, Japan,
With its high altitude and unpredictable weather patterns, Kinabalu, like all mountains, can be a dangerous place. In the previous 2 races to scale its heights, all the athletes have returned safely, and the local hosts are keen to see that it stays that way. The local shaman is making a sacrifice to the gods of Kinabalu. In the early morning darkness at Laban Rata Hut, high on Kinabalu, Pam Hopkinson and the rest of the race technical crew is preparing to head to the top of the mountain. They'll be trusting to their own experience rather than the mountain gods in keeping the athletes safe. Down below, the athletes are already awake and preparing to walk to the start gate at Laban Rata.
Light it low on the Vegemite. It's not good.
A good breakfast should help most of the teams get through the day, though not everyone enjoys the early start.
I'm not very much of a morning person, and especially without sleep, so the walk will be a nice way to ease myself into it.
Today we're going up. Hopefully we're gonna come down.
For most mortals, the walk to the start would be a hard day's exercise in itself, but for the supermen and women, it's just a nice way to stretch the legs. As dawn breaks, the rigging team is making the top of the mountain as safe as possible for the athletes and enjoying a scene that very few will ever be privileged to witness. The first teams arrive at Laban Rata.
You know, that was a nice leisure hike up. It's rough. You know, I'm mentally kind of trying to prepare for it because I know I'm going to be pushed and pulled up it. So it'll be beyond my pace, but hopefully if I can hold on for an hour, that's kind of what I'm mentally preparing for. I just know it's going to hurt.
From the start, the magnitude of the task ahead is all too painfully obvious. As the start time approaches, the last fine adjustments are being made at the top.
Gotta be careful when it's cold and stuff rips. I'm flagging the course. We want it to be absolutely certain that they know where to go. Because we're trying to keep them off the loosest rocks so they don't knock rocks down to the people below them.
As the first rays of the sun warm the granite slabs, the athletes gather for the start of what will be a memorable and painful day.
You only need to get to the top of the abseil in pairs. So 2 people, you don't need to be a team, so you can split up and be in 2s to get to the top of the abseil.
After some last-minute instructions from John Howard, the race gets underway.
4, 3, 2, 1.
On the narrow paths at the start, bottlenecks are inevitable, and the teams at the front have a distinct advantage. But on the steep climb, and with altitude playing its part, the congestion is unlikely to continue for long. The athletes will need to take care on the early part of the race. The climb may only be 3 kilometers, but it'll be all too easy to blow up at high altitude. The abseil from the Donkey's Ears is followed by a steep and relentless 8-kilometer descent that will put huge stress on tired legs. The 46-kilometer mountain bike from Timperhon Gate will test legs and nerves on a fast and technical course that includes 2,000 meters of descent and 300 meters of climbing. The stage finishes with a 15-kilometer paddle and a ride on inner tubes over the last few hundred meters to the finish. It's a bone-jarring 73 kilometers of racing. Mountain specialist Mike Closer leads Team Nike ACG, who are forcing the pace at the head of the field. Irule and the rest simply cannot keep up.
So far in the race, they've been strong on the legs, on the runs, and maybe the mountain bikes as well. So we can't expect them to lead us, but we're still hoping. We're still trying to beat them up the mountain and back down again. But they passed us almost straight away and started to lead away. And yeah, we couldn't go any faster. That's just the way it turned out.
First things past me and run away with the hut.
A $3,000 special prize is on offer for the first team to make it back to Timperhon Gate transition. And at this stage, it would be difficult to find any takers against Nike ACG. But as the altitude increases and the air gets thinner, prize money is a distant thought. Putting one foot in front of the other is now all that matters.
Eddie's quiet!
As the leaders reach the slabs and broken rock below Lowe's Peak, Nike ACG are still pushing hard.
I think I took in a lot more on the hike up this morning before the race actually started than I did on the peak summit. once we were in the race. You know, it's just you're in the heat of the race and you're like, okay, around the top of the summit and back down over the rappel and on we went. So you really have to focus a lot on your foot placement and your footwork, especially when you're trying to move that quickly down a boulder field or a granite slope like that.
Astafacta and I-Rule are next to make Lowe's Peak.
Nelly with Daryl.
From the summit, a saddle leads to the towering twin peaks of the Donkey Ears, the site of the abseil. Getting here first will guarantee a descent free from backups and delays. Mike Closer and George Christensen of Nike ACG are the first to arrive.
We ahead of everybody else to the abseil. We got there first, and we probably had, I don't know how long, but at least a couple of minutes on the rest of the field. So it all worked really well for us. And it shows how strong those two guys are and the team. If we can sort of, in the first hour of the race, sort of get that sort of gap and get up there first.
Monique Merrill and her team are the first to enjoy the spectacular descent. Team FVB Solid Pack arrived just meters ahead of two members of I-Rule, with Jose Torres Lopez and Emma Roca of Buff just behind.
Muy bien, Emma. Emma, míralo. Si ven, ya estaba ya.
As the first two members of I-Rule near the bottom, Nike ACG are already on their way back down to Timperhon Gate, and obviously in a greater hurry than some of the athletes behind them.
G'day folks. The fourth day into the race and it's my first chance I've had a chance to talk, and there's no stopping, folks.
Get up here.
It's a great day. We're at the top of Kinabalu.
Get ready to clip in.
I'm clipping in. Folks, I gotta go.
Not there, here.
Team Buff for the next to descend, with the final two members of I-Rule stuck a couple of places further back behind Astafacta. The ride down is thrilling, but thanks to the riggers, safe. The real danger of Kinabalu will come on the steep return journey. With the summit behind them, for Nike, the race back to Timperhon Gate and the $3,000 mountain prize is now on. But Monique Merrill is suffering.
We knew sort of last night she wasn't feeling very well, and this morning she had stomach aches and stomach cramps and was complaining of that. But she went up the mountain quite quick. It was coming down. She started having problems with her stomach, and the pace slowed down a bit.
Unlike some others, the team sticks together through adversity.
Last year I had a bad stomach on Kinabalu, and I was dragging behind the team on the descent, and I couldn't figure out, I said, it can't be, a stomach issue that's causing me to go slow, but in hindsight, I think it was. It just kind of sapped a lot of energy out of me, and your focus isn't the way it needs to be on your foot placement and your movement.
A few hundred meters behind, Addy Good Vibes is on his way down and still talking.
Hi folks, I just found out, I think, it's hot. I'm in the top 10, I think, which is very unusual for us, but I've got a few seconds. I better go, because they're coming. I'll get in trouble.
As Emma Roca leads Buff in pursuit of Nike, the Franco-Spanish team have to balance the desire for speed and the mountain prize with the need to finish the day in one piece. As the morning cloud rolls in on Kinabalu, the middle-ranked teams are able to take a little more time to enjoy the surroundings.
Just be careful, slow down. Yep, good job. Having less fun are reigning champion Seagate. The rest day has done little to help Hayden Key with his illness, and he's suffering badly.
Team number 3.
Up this way.
How are you?
Oh, good to be at the top, huh? It's kind of good to be at the top, but at the same time, I'm not really looking forward to this run down.
Unbelievable views from up here. Nice day, too.
You'd never know I was in the tropics, eh?
I know.
Okay, switch over to this one.
Even in the heat of the competition, few of the athletes are unwise enough to ignore the sights, which are a magnificent feature of the sport of adventure racing.
Fantastic. This is why we race. Looks silly when you look at it sometimes, but it's times like this, you look around, it's like, what we do is good.
It's like a sea of granite, a rough, wild sea of granite. A giant storm. Just imagine being in a tiny little boat and being terrified. It's incredible.
The run down Kinabalu, however, is an entirely different experience.
Descent is incredibly slippery, rocks everywhere. You know, you're concentrating so hard not to sprain an ankle. There's that balance between going really fast and as fast as you can and going just that bit too fast, you lose control and you can't quite judge your foot placement.
Wow.
Sorry.
At Timperhon Gate, there's a surprise, as Team Buff arrive first to claim the prize.
La verdad que hoy yo me he encontrado muy bien después de otros días y iba bajando muy cómodo y Nike iba adelante casi hasta el final. Lo hemos conseguido alcanzar y ellos iban un poquito más despacio y no han puesto mucha resistencia. La hemos pasado y se han quedado ahí.
Some water.
Así que bueno, no creo, pero al final no hemos llegado ni con un minuto de diferencia, ha estado muy cerquita.
Muy bien, Mike, venga. Sí, sí, sí.
Yes. Now, tranquilo. Now, tranquilo. Relax. Sí, okay. Yes. Now, recuperation. Sí.
Muy bonitas. Por mí, mejor arriba que abajo. Abajo mucho calor.
With both teams in the transition, speed is of the essence, but failure to drink enough and rehydrate could have disastrous consequences later.
Long cycle, make sure you get your water.
Vamos. Venga.
Nike ACG have had a slightly faster changeover, and they leave first with Buff drafting right behind as Nokia enter the transition along with iRule.
Well done.
Nike ACG are probably the best mountain bikers in the race. This is their chance to make ground not only on Team Buff, but also on iRule, whom they trail by nearly 5 minutes in the overall standings. It's Nokia Adventure who get away in third place in what is at first a fast and steep road section. As Buff give chase, they pass Nike ACG's Mike Closer, who stopped to retrieve a dropped water bottle. Race rules impose severe penalties for any littering. But Closer is a former mountain bike world champion, and he's soon back at the head of the field. iRule know that with less than a 5-minute overall lead, they can't afford to let Nike get too far ahead. But pushing too hard can force even expert riders like Marcel Hagener into mistakes. Back at the transition, Christina Anglem has a minor injury, but that's the least of Seagate's problems.
They're just waiting now for two of our teammates. They got caught up in the traffic jam on the abseil, so we've come down and hoping they would catch us, but they haven't caught up yet, but hopefully they won't be far away.
As Astor Factor enter the TA, there's no news of Seagate's missing teammates, and their own Addy Good Vibes has some problems of his own that are almost severe enough to stop him talking.
Hey guys, put everything
I need some gels.
Guys, can you get some gels, please?
Your water bottle and my shoe. I need dry.
You want this right now?
Yeah.
This needs to be filled up with water.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get it, Addy. You get your harness on.
But it's gonna be a long day, long leg ahead right now to mountain bike. So just gotta stay steady and don't blow up. That's the key for today.
We'll get Addy a little Vegemite and he'll be just fine.
Nike, here we come.
Okay, let's
We've got
go.
15 minutes behind the lead group.
15 minutes.
With Addy's jaw restored to action, Astor Factor set off just ahead of Team Switzerland. As Montreal roll into the transition, Seagate are becoming increasingly worried about the missing Richard Usher and Hayden Key.
Really hurt. He was gurgling and yeah.
Not everyone is glad to be down from the mountain.
As far as I'm concerned, you can keep the jungle and give me the mountains.
Lower temperature.
Oh, just exposure and sky and clouds and
no heat.
It's just it talks to my soul. The jungle talks to my resentment and frustration.
As Montreal head away, Nathan Farvey and Christina Anglem are growing ever more concerned that something serious has happened to their missing teammates. While the backmarkers make their way down Mount Kinabalu, the leaders have already left the granite slabs behind as they descend down the main highway at the beginning of the 32-kilometre mountain bike section. Nike ACG are the leaders, but Team Buff are on their back wheels. Further behind, Nokia Adventure are also moving well. Back at the transition area, there's relief for Seagate as Richard Usher and Hayden Key finally join their teammates. But Key is in trouble, and Dr. Bruce Beattie is not about to let him pass.
Oh, yeah. Just come over this way, mate. Come down, eh? You guys get him some ice and some drinks then? Yeah. What's that, Rich? Yeah, get him a drink, yeah. Get some ice for his back, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm amazed that he's been staying upright. But I broke the toe line. I was towing him so hard on the going up. I just couldn't go any faster. And it's just like he's got nothing left.
No, it's just a struggle from the start.
He's done bloody well just to get back to here.
At the moment, you've got a yellow card, guys, okay, until we get him back.
Have you had any food?
Let's get him some good eating. Have some yellows, please. Yep. Seems at the moment he seems like he's picking up. We'll probably hold him for a few more minutes, but you have to take it on really make sure that you look after him, okay? Particularly because there's a heavy cycle up through the gravel on the other side of the top of the hill there. Okay?
As Key recovers, the leaders have reached a steep and dangerous part of the 2,000 metres of vertical descent.
I looked over my shoulder after one of these tight turns, and a couple of the gang went off the road and went into the ditch. It was pretty harmless, you know, kind of into the weeds and get up and away we go. It just so happened, you know, a minute or so later, really steep paved section and an increasing radius left-hand turn. And I looked over my shoulder as I made it through, and I saw 3 or 4 people piled up in the ditch. And I didn't realize that Emma had been the first one in, I believe. I assume at that point she probably broke her wrist.
For Emma Rocker, the rest of the day will have to be negotiated with the broken bone in her wrist.
All I do is take my hand off the line. Yeah.
With George Christensen also nursing a broken wrist, the 2 lead teams are carrying injured athletes.
I don't know how she would have been feeling. I think her wrist was really sore, and she would have had the problems that I've been having on the bike, just with the vibrations of going down those steep hills.
But the ride isn't all downhill. It includes 300 metres of ascent on some very steep hills. It's on these sections that the overall race leaders, iRule, make a decisive move. Having passed 3 of the Nokia Adventure team to take 3rd place, iRule have a battle to get past the Finnish captain, Petri Forsman. As they make their break, Marcel Hagener unfortunately feels it necessary to exchange words with Forsman. Back at the transition area, most of the back markers have reached the bottom of the descent, including Jenny Lee of Team Naruan Taiwan. She's one of the most popular characters in the race, especially for the Asian media contingent who follow their every move.
Sometimes the man told me she's really strong, and she will encourage the guys together. They just go together, and she will say, "Go, go! We gotta win! We gotta win!"
The Taiwanese are enjoying a friendly battle with Team TechGuard China, but a long day still stretches ahead of both. As the climbing section continues, iRule close on their rivals. Next in their sights are Team Buff, who've slowed down after Emma Rocker's broken wrist.
We weren't really holding back today. But, go out and to push yourself to your limits in a race. Do that in training. Know what you're capable of and stick within those limits.
Further back on the course, the chasing teams are still enjoying the delights of freewheeling on the downhill sections. The scenery the teams pass through is spectacular, but with the fast, technical nature of the trail, there's precious little time for sightseeing. For Montreal's Matthew Weatherly-White, the view is about to be turned upside down. Weatherly-White fortunately seems uninjured, but the same can't be said for his bike.
What are you doing, man? You're right.
While things go from bad to worse for Montreal, Seagate's day is getting better.
So we had our own challenges, getting ninth out of AF and getting H up the hills. But I think if you rode it in a panic, in a race panic outside your comfort zone, then the potential for crashing was magnified hugely because the descents were fast and rocky and steep. Yeah, you could, because of the speed you could get up, you could do some big damage out there, which some people did.
For Montreal, the day is quite literally going pear-shaped.
What have you done, both of them?
No.
What's up with the front one?
Let's run with it.
What's
I haven't jumped on it. It's pretty straight. I think it'll work.
What's up with the front one? Can that go back on?
Give it a shot. Look at it.
How much further to the finish?
Out of the two. What? There's 2 rounds, not out of
Do
round.
you think we could have one day where something doesn't go wrong? Pick that up, please.
Don't bother changing it. Let's just stomp on it until it gets round. We got 10K to go, mate.
As the mountain bike section nears completion, Nike ACG is still at the head of the field, but iRule are reeling them in metre by painful metre.
When I rolled past us today, it was pretty demoralizing because we figured today was our best chance at taking some time out of it and actually maybe even moving into the lead and seeing what day 5 had in store. But we just had to minimize our losses at this point and realize that we can only do so much, and if we push Monique beyond the brink, we could just ruin our whole race. So we figured let's work through it, see if we can close down some time on these guys later in the stage.
But as iRule move into the lead, time may be running out for Nike ACG and the rest of the field. As the valley floor widens out, the leading teams are closing in on the transition area, where they'll take to the water for a 5-kilometre paddle towards the finish at Malangang. iRule have now put some distance between themselves and Nike ACG. They're one of the strongest paddling teams, and barring mishap, they should be able to increase their lead on the river.
Hot, eh? Hot water. Done. Eric, water. I need water down here.
As the quartet make their way towards the kayaks, They're about to find a river with a low water level that will pose few problems for such technically accomplished athletes.
We really enjoyed the paddle today. To start with, it was very scratchy. You had to basically drag your boat down almost all the rapids. But then a few rivers came in and it picked up. It was quite enjoyable towards the end. Some nice rapids to run. I think we actually started playing around a little bit and relaxing a little bit.
For Nike ACG, there's no relaxing. They need to limit the damage if they're to have any hope of overhauling their rivals the next day. To add to their worries, Nokia Adventure are right behind.
I think it's okay now. All right, good.
For Emma Rockers, another painful section lies in store. The mountain biking has also taken its toll on Team Switzerland's Benny Hug.
It was difficult to find something to stop the blood, so we took his number and we pulled his number together and we take a tube and then we put it around like an Indian, but it was a red number now, and so one of the officials said he don't need to carry his number for the kayak session.
For Benny, a fractured cheekbone is a distinct possibility.
Just have a look at your eyes.
For all the injured athletes, the Low River is a test of skill and courage.
The river being low today for the paddle was just kind of one of those things you take in stride. You know, everybody has to travel the same river, so we have to just do our best to pick our best lines, and that's really what that amounted to. You know, we did pretty well, but again, Monique was really feeling the effects of the day, and eventually, you know, we actually swapped out some of the teammates in the boats to try to speed up Monique's craft, because Micah was putting a lot of effort out, you know, trying to make up for, you know, the way Monique was feeling. And no discredit to Monique, she was a complete trooper all day, and she gave it 110% to the finish.
Emma Rocker is only able to stroke on one side of the kayak thanks to her broken wrist, putting a big strain on Michel Faget in the stern. And Nokia Adventure's veteran racer Teo Lassinen is also a virtual passenger, having broken his collarbone on the bike ride. There are no such problems for iRule. But as they approach the finish, a surprise lies in wait. They must negotiate the final kilometre on truck tyre inner tubes. For the overall race leaders, it's been another flawless day. They finish 6 1/4 hours after setting off on Mount Kinabalu.
We had a game plan to go out solid and disregard the other teams, take it easy down the mountain, and then go hard again on the bike. And if we had a chance to attack anybody on the river, we would. But as it turned out, we'd already dropped everyone and we had a free run on the river. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of time we've consolidated over the rest of the field.
The answer isn't too long in coming as Nike ACG make their way towards the finish tape, followed by Buff. For Monique Merrill and Emma Rockers, the day has been all about survival. Nike ACG come home 12 minutes behind iRule. George Christensen is, as ever, the master of understatement.
Hard mountain bike ride,
Buff crossed just 32 seconds behind Nike ACG.
Stupid.
Speed.
Stupid speed.
Yep, happens so quickly, doesn't it?
You are tough as nails, baby. Good job. We thought you were Nokia back there.
Oh man,
Way to go, baby.
I mean, I don't see how she did it. She's one of my heroes.
The suffering is almost at an end. Adding good vibes, though, is still enjoying things.
Here we are, folks. Nice little trip down the river on the tube. Looking forward to the finish line.
Montreal also have a smile back on their faces.
Not try this at home. This is being done by trained professionals on a closed course.
Nokia come home in fourth, 13 minutes behind Nike and Buff, followed closely by Astafactor.
I think let's go, Eddie. Come on. Look, I can't even. Come on. Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming now.
Less than a minute behind are Team Switzerland.
Well done. Welcome home, fellas.
We held off the Swiss the last 5 minutes. Touch and go all day.
Hey, Pete. All right, that's good.
You must have all been all the way in the ditch. I didn't even see you. I saw her in the bushes.
He was in front of me.
Yeah.
He looked like Sylvester Stallone now.
At the medical station, the list of casualties is growing.
Don't push hard.
After a testing day, Seagate come home in seventh after a display of teamwork gets Hayden Key across the finish line in one piece.
All credit to him, man. He just toughed it out. Must have been bloody horrible. Bloody horrible to watch.
As the afternoon rain begins to fall, the casualties continue to roll in. Cowboy Mayala has cut his face, and East Wind's Minahiro Yokoyama has a suspected dislocated shoulder.
He'll need to have an X-ray. We'll take him back to Nexus, have a shower. There's 2 other people who have to go for X-rays. They'll all go together.
All in all, it's been a tough, tough day. 3 teams are out of the official ranking, but the battle between Naruan Taiwan and China Tekka has come down to just a couple of minutes. East Wind are the leading Asian team in 12th place, but that shoulder injury could open the door for Powerbar Malaysia to pass them on stage 5. A disastrous day for Team FVB Solid Pack sees them plummet from 3rd to 10th place, and they're now more than an hour and 3/4 behind the leaders. But iRule are the day's big winners. They're now the only team in the top 6 without an ill or injured athlete after stretching their lead to nearly 17 minutes over Nike ACG. They keep the race leaders' yellow vests and add another $5,000 stage prize to their purse, which now totals $17,500.
A lot of teams had crashes today, and that's put a lot of teams out or started a lot of teams down. Also, well, Nike, I think one of their team members blew up today. That's kind of slowed them right down. Whereas we've had nothing major happen to us. So I think today was sort of people making mistakes rather than us forging ahead.
Every team has their own dramas, and I guess the team with the least dramas, either physical or mechanical, certainly has an advantage over all the other teams. But, you know, you still have to work together as a team.
Ahora mismo todavía no sabemos bien si la tiene rota, si la tiene fracturada, solo una fisura, una distensión. Están al hospital, están haciendo radiografías. Así que cuando vuelva, veremos. Pero yo pienso que va a poder salir mañana con una pequeña prótesis ahí en la muñeca.
And the next day will be the last roll of the dice. iRule have one hand on the big prize, but there are still some dramas to come on stage 5 of the Outdoor Quest.
iRule have given a good race and they'll be hard to sort of pull back now. I think they've got at least 15 minutes on us, so yeah, that's a lot of time to take out of them. But in any sort of adventure race or event like this, you don't know what's going to happen. You just got to keep going as hard as you can right to the finish, and we'll do that tomorrow.